Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am super duper excited today because I have Alex KRAINER back with me, who is fantastic geopolitical analyst and also an expert in finances, but that's another story. Today, I don't think we're gonna talk so much about money, more about yesterday. This will be the main conversation probably today in our live stream. But before we start, if you would like to support Alex's work, or find contacts to Alex, just scroll down all the way down below the live stream. I already have the links to his Substack, X account, and the website as well. And if you choose to support me, you have Patreon, locals, and other links are down below as well. Alex, thank you again for finding time on the Saturday. I'm actually very grateful that we were not able to connect yesterday and the day before yesterday, because today is just excellent.
Yes. Thank you, Anya. Always good to join you, and greetings to all your viewers and listeners.
So, Alex, today I kind of have questions, but I would like to really free flow with this conversation. What took place yesterday in Washington at the White House? I'm sure you've seen it. Have you seen it?
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. So my first question is, when you saw it, what was your first reaction, your first thoughts? What came to your mind or your feeling about it? What was it?
I think I was a little bit embarrassed because it was very unpleasant to see. But I also practically couldn't believe what I was seeing because I've never, ever in my life seen anything like it. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance just kind of mauled Zelensky in front of everyone, and he played into it perfectly. I didn't think that was going to happen, but I did think that nothing was going to come out of the signing of that rare earths agreement that was supposedly the reason why Zelensky came to Washington. And I'll explain why. And this is, I think, to my mind, the most mind-blowing aspect of the whole story. So, it may seem for people who are, not following this closely or rely on, mainstream media accounts that, Donald Trump just woke up one day, decided to be evil and greedy, and decided to squeeze the poor Ukrainians and take advantage of their misfortune and take $500 billion in Ukrainian resources for US interests. But the story of Ukrainian minerals goes way back to September of 2024. So that is, and maybe possibly even earlier than that, but in September of 2024, so we're going on nearly 6 months ago now, Volodymyr Zelensky paid a visit to Donald Trump in New York and offered essentially this deal to Donald Trump because he wanted to win him over, and because he was worried that if Biden loses the election, or if the Democrats lose the election, and you get Donald Trump in the White House, that Ukraine might lose support. So to win Trump over, kind of with the mindset that Trump is a transactional guy and they just have to kind of lure him with the promise of big bucks. So Zelensky went to New York, met with Trump, and made him that basic offer. The $500 billion figure comes from Zelensky. So it's not Donald Trump who invented that number. It's Zelensky who made that offer. And so, fast forward to February of this year. So these last 2 or 3 weeks, we had Scott Bessent in. Trump sent him to Kiev, and he brought a draft agreement to Zelensky about these minerals. And I think that was the 12th of February.
Alex, can I say one thing here? Can I say one thing? What you're
Of
just
course.
saying. What was it the case? This was what President Trump was mentioning on the plane, that when he appeared with that deal, Zelensky was sleeping and he was not able to see him. Is it correct?
Oh, I don't know that. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, like he went by the train, I think, that Bassett guy, and he arrived to Kiev and then supposed to see Zelensky with this offer, and Zelensky was not able to see him because he was sleeping. So he went back.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. But at any rate, apparently that meeting went badly, because the draft agreement that Bassett submitted to Zelensky, however that happened, didn't contain any mention of security guarantees for Ukraine from the US side. And so apparently Zelensky went crazy and was quite impolite, and rejected the agreement. And then 2 days later, on Friday, 14th February, they submitted a counter proposal, the Ukrainians. And then a few days later, there was a meeting between Zelensky and Marco Rubio. And Zelensky said, I will, that's a great deal. I'm going to sign that deal, but I have to run it through my, administrative, legislative process, whatever. But rather than getting back to Rubio, or rather than saying, okay, everything's clear, we can sign the agreement, Zelensky went to the media and say, I rejected the agreement because this and that, And so Marco Rubio thought, well, that's not what you said to me during our meeting. And then Marco Rubio gave an interview to the media saying this, and that basically, not only did Zelensky embarrass the US Secretary of State, he also insulted the president, Donald Trump. And so I thought that is so incredibly strange, because Zelensky's life practically depends on US support. Ukraine is desperate for US support. Without US support, they're finished. And so why would Zelensky be so abrasive and brazen in rejecting the US deal and pretending like he has a great negotiating position here? And then I couldn't understand it. And then someone sent me an article from a Czech online portal called AE News, who apparently have a very good record of catching major scoops. And what they were reporting is that according to a intelligence leak from Ukrainian intelligence, the reason why they're doing all this smoke and mirror show is because Zelensky already signed over Ukrainian resources, energy, minerals, ports, and all this to the Brits. And that happened on the 16th of January, on the occasion of them signing the 100-year partnership between the Kingdom of the Great Britain and Northern Ireland and Ukraine. So that happened on the 16th of January. Keir Starmer flew to Kiev, and he and Zelensky signed this deal. That was just 4 days before Donald Trump's inauguration. So it was basically Keir Starmer's stealth act of piracy. He snatched Ukraine's resources from under Donald Trump's nose. And so now Zelensky can't sign them over to the United States. So now they're doing this song and dance with these extremely vague agreements that are not quite contracts, not quite treaties. It's extremely difficult to interpret. And then there was this fallout because Zelensky simply cannot make a commitment, so he's dodging it, and he's being impolite and abrasive and disrespectful in the process. Regardless, I'm 100% certain that Donald Trump and his people understand this situation perfectly, because if it is true, okay, so one thing about this 100-year agreement signed between Britain and Ukraine on 16th of January is that it's not the entire agreement. So you can read the agreement online. It's posted on the UK government website, but it's not the entire agreement. Normally these kinds of agreements have entire agreement clause saying that all the rights and obligations of the parties to this agreement are spelled out here. There's nothing beyond this, because otherwise it would be, somebody could have an open-ended liability or whatever. So it's a customary clause that goes into the whole boilerplate of most contracts and agreements. No, here Article 11 refers to additional resources. I don't remember the wording. Is resources, addendums, and provisions that might be necessary to fulfill this agreement. So it does refer to possibly additional documents, and then there are addendums that you can find online. But apparently, there's a secret appendix to the agreement, which pretty much says that Ukraine, upon the cessation of hostilities, British interests will take over all of the Ukrainian ports, energy resources, storage facilities, pipelines, rare earth minerals, and on and on and on. And so, this is an intelligence leak. It's not confirmed, but the way that the agreement reads, it makes it plausible. And then what I found out today is that, so this was signed 16th January, 17th of January, Volodymyr Zelensky makes a video statement on his Telegram channel in which he says that there is a secret part to the 100-year partnership agreement. And then in the press release of the British government saying that, oh yeah, we signed this agreement, there is this sentence. It also, referring to the agreement, it also cements the UK as a preferred partner for Ukraine's energy sector, critical minerals, strategy, and green steel production. So the Brits themselves say that, this 100-year agreement cements Britain as the preferred partner. Okay, and then there's more, because then at some point after that, Donald Trump says, and this may have been the 17th February, I don't exactly remember, but the timeline is kind of important. Donald Trump says that Zelensky is a dictator and he has a 4% approval rating in Ukraine. And the Brits go insane. It's like a hysterical reaction in Britain, not only by Starmer, but also pretty much by the whole mainstream media and even Mr. Controlled Opposition, Nigel Farage. Because if Zelensky is not the legitimate president of Ukraine, which he isn't, then his signature on this 100-year agreement is worthless. And then the whole agreement is null and void. So they all jump to the defense, like, no, the president of the United States is wrong. Starmer is Zelensky is a legitimate president. He was duly elected, and he has a war at home, so he can't hold elections. And in the United Kingdom, we didn't have elections between 1935 and 1945 because of the war, and blah 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 blah. It's irrelevant. That's their narrative. Ukraine has a constitution. It's the supreme law of the land. And Ukrainian constitution says that the president's term is for 5 years. Presidential elections cannot be delayed for any reason. The president's term cannot be extended one day beyond the 5-year term for any reason. And that's that. So as of last May 2024, Volodymyr Zelensky is illegally acting as a president of Ukraine. So Britain's agreement with Ukraine is null and void. So now, to defend all this, suddenly there's this panic of, at the Munich Security Conference, they realized that the Trump administration is throwing them all collectively under the bus. And then quickly they organized this emergency summit in Paris. What are we going to do? This is the disaster. It's a catastrophe. And so I think, among other things, they decided to kind of flood the zone around Trump, to just go one after the other to see Trump and try to persuade him to recommit to Project Ukraine. And so I think, the Kaya Kallas gave it away because she posted on X a comment. I think she was addressing Marco Rubio. I don't remember exactly whom she was addressing, but she said, let's not allow Putin to divide us. And basically she said that we need to get the United States back on board with this. And so then apparently some people told me that Ursula von der Leyen has been trying to call Trump multiple times. He's not taking her calls. And then Andrzej Duda went there and he got humiliated because Trump kept him waiting for like an hour and a half and then gave him 15 minutes of his time. And then went Emmanuel Macron. He got humiliated. Trump kind of treated him like a schoolboy, putting him to sit next to him at the corner of his desk. Like, you could pull up the chair, let's get this over with, like that. And then Starmer got...
On the edge.
Yeah, on the edge. And then Starmer got there on Friday. So when was it? No, on Thursday, 26th February. He got subtly humiliated. And then came Zelensky, who got absolutely mauled. And so Trump, the most important thing for the Europeans to win from Trump was US commitment to Ukraine. Now, what does that mean? In order for this agenda with the resources to stick, and I'll explain why the resources are extremely important. In order for all this to stick, it is absolutely imperative for the European powers and Britain to retain control of the political process of Ukraine, to make sure that people loyal to them are in power, because for the resources there are money good collateral for the absolutely collateral starved European and British financial systems. And so having control over that collateral would enable British and European banks to fuel a new large-scale credit impulse. So the banks, British European banks, could finance the development of Ukraine, the development of their of their resources, and control the trade of these resources, and then award these contracts to their own clients, meaning the corporations, the agricultural, energy corporations, mining corporations, port authorities, whoever could, and that way they could the wealth extracted from Ukraine could all kind of flow towards European and British banks. But in order for all that to work, you need to control the political process, because if tomorrow Ukraine realigns with Russia, some government comes in that's favorable to Russia and says, this agreement that you signed with Zelensky is dog shit, it's null and void, goodbye. Then all of it crumbles. This whole dream about controlling Ukrainian ports and gas and titanium and all of these things becomes a pipe dream and flies away. And so that's why at the emergency summit in Paris on the 17th February, Starmer said, we want to commit troops to Ukraine. We want to send British troops to Ukraine so that they could have control over all this. And then, you know, the way the Brits work is they make a small commitment and they start kind of lobbying everybody else. You send 10,000 and you send 10,000 and you send 30,000. And then
like World War II, Alex, right? Like World War II.
Exactly. And like World War I too, you know, because they always wanted the United States involved, but they started it anyway. And then they lobbied, and even pulled false flag events in order to get the United States involved. So they're trying to do the same again. And so they were like, we're going to send 10,000 troops. And then, you know, then you get the French to send 10,000, and then you get the Baltic state to send whoever they can. And then if you can get rid of Karlin Georgescu in Romania, then you get Romania to send 20, 30,000 troops. You get some from Sweden, Finland, Czech Republic, Germany.
How could you forget Poland, Alex? How could you forget Poland? Poland, first and foremost.
I was getting there. It's P in the alphabetic order, so I was. So yeah, and there you put it together. The problem is that none of it works without the support of the United States, for a variety of reasons. And I don't know all of them, but I know that, you know, that for all of the advanced sophisticated weaponry that the NATO has, they need US satellite intelligence, they need GPS, global positioning system, they need logistical support. I don't know what else, but without the United States, they don't have anything. They can just send their people there as a cannon fodder to get slaughtered, and they cannot change the outcome of the game. But if they could persuade the Americans to support them, then they could, how do you call it, secure free and prosperous and democratical and sovereign Ukraine, and then continue to attack Russia. Even if the war is lost militarily, they can still continue to fight by means of terrorism, by means of, you know, one of the main foreign policy tools that the British Empire has used for centuries is opium wars, which is one of the reasons why the Brits want to control the ports of Ukraine. Because if you control the ports, it facilitates the flow of troops, of weapons, and of narcotics. And you can continue to attack Russia by terror gangs, by narco trafficking gangs, and so on. Remember, they don't need to defeat Russia militarily. They just need to destabilize Russia and get to the regime change, get rid of Putin, and put somebody there like Yeltsin, who's going to be friendly with the Western interests. And so this is what the Europeans were trying to get from Trump when, you know, Duda went there, Macron went there, Kaja Kallas went there, Keir Starmer went there, Zelensky went there, Ursula von der Leyen keeps trying to reach Trump by phone, and it all fell apart on Friday, which was one of the most amazing spectacles ever. Now, to finish the whole thing, Europeans were also counting on, they also had their own calculus for this Ukrainian situation. Russia has about $260 billion frozen in European banks. What they think they're going to do with that is to use that money as collateral to finance Ukraine's reconstruction. So this would, this is Macron's brainchild, and his former foreign minister, Gabriel Séjourné, is pitching it around, is that this would be used as collateral for French banks to finance reconstruction of Ukraine. Those contracts would be awarded to French companies or maybe other European companies, I don't know. And that again would make sure that as they repay their debts, as Ukrainians repay their debts to the Europeans, that there's again another large flow of wealth from Ukraine flowing to French banks. So very, very nice, brilliant ideas, but none of it works without the American support. And then on the occasion of Trump's meeting with Keir Starmer on Thursday, 26 February, Trump also makes sure to point out that Vladimir Putin can be relied on not to breach any deals. And this is, all these pro-Ukraine people are screeching that you can't trust Vladimir Putin. Look up 2013 interview with Bill Clinton, who says that Vladimir Putin has never, that Vladimir Putin always kept his word in all the deals. Now they could come in very handy because you have duplicitous, lying Europeans who can't provide security for Ukraine, and then you have reliable Mr. Putin who honors his word and who can provide security for free, so Americans don't have to risk their men and resources in Ukraine for security to make all their deals stick. And Vladimir Putin is saying, we can make deals together, and I got a lot more than the Ukrainians have, and I'll take care of the security. So you don't have a problem of somebody coming in and tearing up your agreements and contracts. And so, when Starmer goes there and tries to seduce Trump with his British accent and the hand-delivered letter from Chuck the King, the best friend of Jimmy Savile, that's all he has to offer. So for Trump, from Trump's point of view, the cost-benefit analysis is, here I can deal with a reliable party who won the war, who can provide security for free, and who doesn't go back on his word, or I can deal with these duplicitous snakes who lost the war, who have nothing to offer, and who need me to provide the security at my risk and cost. And part of that risk might involve nuclear war against Russia. So the cost-benefit analysis is stupidly in favor of Russia. It's a no-brainer. So obviously, Donald Trump is going to side with Russia because it makes sense, because it's right, and because these duplicitous snakes are, in addition, they're fascists, all of them. And so what happened in Washington this week, Duda, Macron, Starmer, Kaja Kallas, Zelensky, is the United States giving each and every one of them a kick in the backside and saying, we're done with you. Go to where you came from. You're on your own. If you think you can make this stick on your own, good luck to you. We're out. And then he said, major American companies are already discussing development project with the Russian companies, and this is already happening. So, for Europe and the United Kingdom, this is cataclysmic. They were counting on this. They invested tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars into the project Ukraine. They were counting on getting it all back, and it looks like they're not getting back anything. So anyway, 30 minutes. I'm done now.
You want to end the live stream now? I don't think so. No, Alex, first and foremost, very, very interesting take on with information that you provided. Of course, a lot of those things I didn't know. However, let me just say one thing before we continue. I have to acknowledge, because I really appreciate when people donate and they have nice comments. Deep respect for Alex KRAINER, one of the best thinkers in today's world. Thank you so much, Dana, for nice words to my guest, and also for a very generous donation. I really appreciate. So here, can I just a few minutes from me? I want to ask you, don't you think that Trump knew about that deal that was signed before, as you mentioned, his inauguration? Because if it was 17, he was inaugurated on the 20th. So, I mean, I will not believe that he didn't know any of it. Now, the question here is this, and I want to play this because you literally took me to the video that I prepared for this live stream. Trump about Putin. I really want to play this clip from that meeting yesterday. However, I would like Alex to brainstorm a little bit about the next scenarios that we might encounter, because it might go different ways from this moment on, right? So I will tell you my thoughts, my perception, and please tell me what do you think has the highest percentage of happening. First thing that I thought when I saw this yesterday, I said, Trump is absolutely done with this bullshit. And I will use the language like this because it's bullshit. This was a perfect manifestation and presentation for everyone how you cannot deal with Ukrainians, okay? How you cannot deal with those type of people. That he was up to here with the powder or up to here with the powder. That's another story. Alex, one more thing. I don't know if you pay attention. I was like, what's going on with his wedding ring? So there are some countries when you get married that you wear the wedding ring on the right hand, okay? Most countries wear on the left hand, but you wear it on the fourth finger, So Russia, for example, sometimes people have on the right hand. I look at his wedding ring, not to mention that he's gay, but that's another story. I look at his wedding ring, and his wedding ring is on this finger. So he even misplaced the wedding ring. He didn't put on the right finger, and then he was playing with it because he was nervous. So all those things I pay attention to. I'm like, this is a mess. Like, this is already
Anya, it may not be accidental, it may have been a subtle middle finger salute to Trump. That's entirely possible.
Okay, well, right. Well, yeah. The fuck you finger, right? So now Trump is done. Trump, this is exactly, do you see the world? Do you see what I'm dealing with? And in this moment, I felt like this. He is only focused on closing deals with Russia, only collaborating with Russia, making money with Russia, creating this kind of balance on like two powerful countries coming together, completely ignoring this whole Ukraine thing and leaving this project to Putin and like saying to Putin without saying it, clean it up, do whatever you want to do, and we sign the deal afterwards. This was my first thing, Alex. Then I thought, all right, but what if like they really will remove Zelensky now? They want to remove Zelensky because he's a troublemaker. He's like, why they keep him now? They don't need him. So the second thing is, Who's gonna remove Zelensky now?
Oh,
Is it going to be CIA? Is it going to be from within Ukraine? Because I already heard some talks they want to impeach him. I don't know how that goes in Ukraine. And the third thing, Alex, I was thinking, what if this is the craziest? I don't think this is, well, everything is possible in this movie we are living in. But what if Europe and US, like Trump will influence Europe somehow, okay? You know, Epstein thing, for example, because this is another big cover up because they're supposed to release the files. And now we have this White House Oval Office situation that is taking over the subject of Epstein files. Just saying, you know, how you distract, look over here, don't look over there. So what if now the Europe is like, okay, Trump, let's talk. So we have Europe, we have Putin, and we have Trump. But Zelensky is nowhere to be found. It just poof, disappears like the Nord Stream pipeline, and that's it. So what kind of scenario we expect? Or one more, the most crazy one. That's why Zelensky is in UK. I don't know what he's trying to do, but what if he still thinks that Europe now will, you know, dress up the soldiers and march towards Russia? And that's like the craziest scenario of all. So I just presented 4 scenarios. What do you think is going to happen?
Anya, sorry, how do you mean that Europe dresses up the soldiers and sends them to Russia?
Because that's all they have. They don't have weapons. They don't really.
You mean just go to war like it's 19th century and you start to...
Yeah, like you know, like that's what Zelensky is doing. He's throwing those poor people, and they are literally dying. And the same is just now it's going to be Polish or Romanian, like you said, or you know, go through the alphabet, right?
I think that in the short term that is extremely unlikely, and all it would do is it would get those people slaughtered on very short order. You can't do that without air cover, without all kinds of systems that they don't have. The only country that could theoretically impose like an air cover and a no-fly zone is the United States, and this is why this is one thing that the Brits wanted from the Americans, to establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine. That's not happening. So that you know, we can set that aside. New leadership for Ukraine is possible. I think that there's a chance that Valery Zaluzhnyi ends up the new leader of Ukraine. Now, let me state this now out in the open and categorically. I can't say anything about this. But if one day in the near future, Valery Zaluzhnyi ends up as the acting president of Ukraine, or ends up electing as a real president of Ukraine, no, after election, if he ends up being the real president of Ukraine, then I'm going to explain what happened. So Valery Zaluzhnyi at the moment is Ukraine's ambassador to Great Britain. Zelensky is in Great Britain right now because this whole mess had been cooked up by the British. And see, what happened is that it was on the 17th February, I think, that Marco Rubio gave his interview in which he said that Zelensky rejected the deal.
I watched that interview.
Yeah, right. You know about that. So Zelensky rejected the American proposal. And then on the 24th February, again, Boris Johnson flies over to Kiev, and then 2 things happen. On that same 24th of February, Zelensky turns, no, on the same 24th of February, okay, so 24th of February is the 3rd anniversary of a special military operation, so 3 years of war. And on that day, Boris Johnson is on this panel saying that Zelensky should accept the American agreement because that would commit the Americans in black on white to support Ukrainian security. So Boris Johnson is spelling it out. And then the same day, Verkhovna Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, votes this resolution saying that, Zelensky is still our legitimate president until the martial law is lifted and we have an election. But for now, he's the president. Doesn't matter. It's contrary to the Ukrainian constitution. So whatever Verkhovna Rada voted on there is unconstitutional. So again, it seems to me that the British pushed the lawmakers in Ukraine to vote this resolution because they understand that Zelensky has no legitimacy. So they just put parliamentary fig leaf on his presidency to say, like, everybody agrees here. Everybody here agrees that he's the president and we have a war and martial law. We can't have elections. And that's that, except the Constitution says exactly the opposite. And then on the 25th, the day afterwards, Zelensky comes out and say, like, oh yeah, I guess I'll accept the American deal. So what happened, it seems to me, is that Boris Johnson went there and he said, you got to make this deal with the Americans because otherwise they're out and we need them for all our little schemes to be glued together and so that they work. And then Volodymyr Zelensky says, okay, I guess I'm not rejecting the deal anymore. Now I'm accepting it. And then they drafted this agreement, supposedly, that was going to be signed yesterday on the 28th February in Washington, which, I didn't read the whole thing. I read a few clauses, but the Duran guys, Alexander Mercouris and Alex Christoforou, they read the agreement and they said, like, there's never been an agreement quite like this. It's complete dog shit. And so I was convinced that nothing was going to come of that agreement. But it seems to me that the Brits are kind of pushing Zelensky to play along with the Americans, to kind of butter them up, to try to keep Trump invested in Ukraine, to offer some kind of an agreement, and then to say, like, well, yeah, later we're going to, this is not yet final, it's not binding, but please stay on board, bear with us, and so forth. And Trump had none of it. He just threw him out. So yeah, I think it's likely that we're going to get a new acting president in not too distant a future. It might be Valery Zaluzhnyi. And then we're going to get a new election at some point. And depending on the outcome of the war and when the elections are going to be held, we might get Zaluzhnyi running, Poroshenko running, and Viktor Medvedchuk running. And I think that if Viktor Medvedchuk wins, then Ukraine is going to align with Russia. If Poroshenko wins, I think it's going to be bad. Things are going to continue in the bad direction. And then Valery Zaluzhnyi will talk about that if he ends up elected, because I think what I've been putting together over the last 2 years is going to blow everybody's mind. I don't know that I'm right. I have patchy evidence, but it's going to be something quite different than what most people think and expect.
Why you don't want to say it now?
It'll become clear. It'll become clear. there's a reason why I don't want to say it, but it will become clear at a future time. And again, I could be wrong. I could be wrong because some of the information that I was looking at is, not, they're leaks. It's not necessarily true. It could be counterintelligence. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Okay. Can I share my thoughts on this?
Yes.
I think Trump played them all. I think he literally played them all. And I think the almost the finale was Zelensky's visit yesterday. He wanted, I will not believe that he doesn't know about anything what you were just saying. I cannot believe this.
100% he knows it, Anya.
And I think from the moment when Zelensky exit the car, the first approach Trump has, it's already sarcasm. It's already, look, he's all dressed up. So from the very first moment, it's like, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down.
Yes.
And even the question, I think that question was maybe even insisted by Trump's administration. That journalist, I think his name is Brad, he used to work for a different channel. I think he changed right side broadcasting. I watched this when I lived in the United States. They grew bigger now. This was the journalist that asked 2 questions of Trump. His first question to Trump was, does he want to be remembered as the president of peace, a president who brought peace to the world? Like his legacy would be that. And the second question he asked, so that was, the tone that he said. The second question that journalists asked was to Zelensky, why you never wear a suit? And when he did that, Alex, I was thinking to myself, I felt it almost like my intuition told me this question was approved by Trump's administration, or maybe even influence on the journalists, because he just went there and everyone was kind of like cheering on that question. But I want to play now this video that I prepared for our live stream. This is the end of that meeting yesterday. And there were a lot of nuggets that I took out from that meeting. But this presents, in my opinion, this is the explanation, or this is the presentation of how Trump really feels about Putin. In a nutshell. And when because he was angry, Trump was angry, in spite of the fact that he knows all of it, right? That he's playing the game, but he was kind of like aggravated with the schmuck. So let's play this for a moment. I hope everyone is okay with this. Trump will say a few things about President Putin, and then I will unmute myself again.
Going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do we do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam, and he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened, but he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right.
So why I played this, Alex, I think you know why. They are fighting with the same evil. I said this many times on my channel. Putin and Trump are fighting with the same evil. And
Yes.
like I said, Putin went through a lot with me because he had to put up with this bullshit, with this Russia hoax. And what do you think Putin will do now after all of this took place?
On the ground, the war continues for the time being. And I think that, Trump is, whether deliberately or whether that's just a consequence of his position, is kind of giving the Russians the leeway, the maneuvering space to finish the job in Ukraine. I think that the contacts between the Russians and the Americans are going to continue. And I think that all of these events are now making it undeniably obvious where the problem lies. I think that everybody has worked out who is stirring the pot. You just said, I'm sure that Trump knows. I think I was doing a podcast yesterday or the day before, and I said to my interviewer, I said, if the Russian intelligence knows about this, and what I mean by that is the secret deal between Britain and UK, between Britain and Ukraine for the Ukrainian resources. I said, if the Russian intelligence knows about this, then 100% the Americans know about it too. And then, since then, I found evidence that indeed Russian intelligence does know about this. And so 100% the Americans know about this. And so this whole, you see, when the British enjoyed the advantage of dealing with a government of degenerates and morons in Washington, they could drive the agenda and persuade the Americans to throw money at it, to throw resources at it, to throw weaponry at it. And the whole while, the Americans were gifting that money and those weapons to the Ukrainians, while the Europeans were loaning it. So, after the war, the Europeans and the Brits could say, like, well, now you all owe us all this money. Let's see, we'll have your resources. And the Americans, who just threw the money there, like, nothing for you. And so that, it turns out that the British and the Europeans were taking advantage of the Americans in a very sly and a very brazen manner. And the Trump people can see that, and the Russians can see that. And you're very right to say that they're fighting the same evil, because it's not, it's mistaken to look at the United States as a monolith, and Britain as a monolith, and Russia as a monolith, and Ukraine as a monolith. In each one of these countries, including Russia, including European countries, United States, Ukraine, everywhere, you have structures of power that are loyal to the globalist, imperialistic cabal. and you also have patriotic people who are loyal to their people and their country, and who have no trouble having friendly, constructive relations with their equals in other countries. And so it's not that, you know, some people say like, well, yeah, Trump is doing all this, but it was the United States who did all this to Ukraine, and they orchestrated the coup, and then the CIA did this, and then they armed them. And then, yeah, that's true. But that was Obama administration. That was the first Trump administration when Trump either didn't know what he was doing, or he was relying on people who were misleading him. And he hesitated to take strong action because he wanted to have the second term, and he didn't want to get, he didn't want to get disqualified or destroyed politically. To
Alex,
yes.
Or maybe he was exposing them and also gathering more evidence that he can use in the future, and the future is now.
Yeah, that's possible either. At any rate, you know, whether fortuitously or whether deliberately, that's exactly what played out. And so, and then also in Russia, you know, you have the fifth column that is loyal to Western European centers of power. I mean, in my life, I know many Russians who worship at the altar of the money centers in London, who feel that London is their spiritual home. And you've never talked to bigger Russophobes than these Russians. They hate Russia. They love London. They love Britain. They love the British Empire. They hate Russia, but they're Russian. And so what happened between 1991 and even sooner, because George Soros already had his tentacles inside of the Soviet Union starting in 1987. So what happened between then and Donald Trump's inauguration now was everything done by this structure of power. George Soros told us explicitly that what we're experiencing today is a conflict between two systems of governance. That's what it is. Whether it's the United States or Russia or Ukraine, it's the two systems of governance. And the one that is opposed to everybody else is the Western oligarchic system of governance, which manifests colonialism and imperialism, and that wants to subjugate the whole world, hence globalism, right? And that's all centered around the banking cartel, the international banking cartel. And then they, because they have such economic power, they can buy politicians. They can buy things like World Health Organization. They can finance biolabs everywhere. They can finance the media everywhere in the world, the radio stations, the newspapers. They can make some people very rich, like George Soros and Bill Gates, and make them perpetuate this influence to try to consolidate a total hegemony over the whole world. And then on the opposed to them, the other system of governance are people like Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Donald Trump, people who are not in power like Jeremy Corbyn, like Andrew Bridgen, like Ron Paul. Well, you know, all of these people got marginalized, they got defeated, they got disenfranchised, but Donald Trump is a very, very tough nut for them to crack, and they haven't been able to crack him for a very long time, and he's withstood all of their attacks. He survived at least 2 assassination attempts, and now he's fighting them back like there's no tomorrow, all the way, all out, without without hesitation, without reserve, without equivocation, and they're freaking out. They're hysterical. They're in a panic. And the only thing I think all of us have to pray for is for both Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump to live, to finish their agenda.
Absolutely, what you just said. Thank you for that. And when you were saying that, two things came to my mind. First was the first inauguration of Trump, when he said, that was a pivotal moment. He said that we're giving power back to the people. We have to replay this inauguration again. A lot of people, I don't think they pay enough attention to what he was saying during this first outside inauguration that he had. And the second thing came to my mind, Alex, when you were saying those things, is about how the information war works and how the psychological psyop works on people. Because what media was able to create is this image of Trump as he is one of them. And to repeat this, I think Goebbels or Goering, I think Goebbels said it, if you repeat the lie enough times over and over again, it eventually becomes the truth. It's like you're dripping this into someone's brain over and over and over again, to the point when first they question it and then they actually accept it as the truth. So they literally created this story now that a lot of people broke free from, because everyone thinks that if someone is a billionaire, he must be a monster, which is very interesting to me, because I'm sure you know many billionaires and rich people, and not all of them are monsters, and not all of them want to destroy the world.
Through history, it's always been wealthy, affluent men who have led the movements to reform the system. And you know, in Rome, you know, Rome had the same oligarchic system of governance, which manifested itself in colonialism and imperialism, which is how we got the Roman Empire. It was, you had, I think, until the death of Julius Caesar, you had, I think, 2 or 3 dozen would-be reformers of the Roman system, because they recognized that the system was on the road to perdition, that Rome was going to destroy itself if it continues on that trajectory. So they wanted to reform it. But they were not, you know, peasants who rose up from poverty and started challenging the system. These were aristocrats or they were very influential tribunes or public leaders or generals. So wealthy, important, powerful men like the Gracchi brothers, like Catiline, and like Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was one of the wealthiest aristocrats of Rome. And the evidence that they were sincere, that they were not just playing the public, is that all of them ended up either slaughtered or expelled from Rome. And not only them, but, you know, Senate was running these death squads that would, you know, when they decided to eliminate somebody, they would also eliminate thousands of their supporters. So this was a very very aggressive, very repressive regime, and all of the would-be reformers were not men who rose out of poverty, but powerful men, and many of them were very, very wealthy. This is normal because these people who are powerful, you know, they have their interests. And some of these wealthy people, their interest is in the population being reasonably affluent so that they can buy their company's products and services. If everybody becomes a slave in some kind of a matrix controlled by some, you know, Klaus Schwab or whoever, and then they decide what you get. Oh, you're going to get 100 per, you know, you're going to get 100 grams of protein per week, and it's going to be insect protein. Well, then that person also decides who gets to sell the insect protein, right? So they become the arbiter of everything. And so they may they may be able to destroy some of these oligarchs if people no longer have choice. So it is logical that some oligarchs actually want people to have choice and to retain a degree of liberty and to retain a degree of affluence, so that, like if I'm selling Teslas, would I rather people be affluent enough to buy a lot of Teslas, or would I prefer that everybody is complete slave, shut in 15-minute cities where they don't need no Teslas at all? Of course I want them to be affluent, and of course I want them to be free to drive around and need my car and buy my car. So it's not so weird. Billionaires are not all the same. They have different interests, and some of them are not even evil. They might actually like human beings. They might not all be satanic, hating humanity. I don't know if I couldn't say Elon Musk who he is. I know Elon Musk from his posts, from what people say about him, from his posts. So coming from him directly, I get a very positive impression. And then what people talk about it, there's a mix of positive and negative. So I don't, if I knew him personally, then I would be a bit more confident to judge him, but I don't. And now I forgot what I was going to say. It'll come back to me maybe.
Alex, no, it's okay. I really like it. Yeah, just want to say two more things and then share the comments from the viewer. And I think we have to end because we are already over 1 hour. So, I was thinking that the aggression most of the times comes from poverty. And when we look at what's taking place in Europe right now, this is not just in Europe, but those countries who struggle with people, making a living and having decent life. Poverty is not healthy at all. And I'm not saying there's no aggression on this level where billionaires are. It's just more in the white gloves and more sophisticated, probably. Say hello to my little friend, right? Or something like that. But I don't want to sidetrack with this. I want to go back just to comment on this. I watched, because I like to watch full interviews, full speeches. If I can tune into them live, that's ideal. And through many, many rallies that Trump was doing, especially this time for this election, he was mentioning, because, there is a tendency you repeat the same stuff, right? Of course. Unless something new comes out, like you are garbage people. By the way, that was, I think, started there. You are garbage people. He said that the United States, besides drill, baby drill, and all other things, has one of the biggest assets. And he said it's people. And he repeated this many times, that people are the biggest asset. And, I pay attention to this because you don't really hear politicians or people in the position like that saying those things a lot. You don't. People are the asset. Like, they are not underdogs. They are not. And what you just explained, what you just described in that historical times in ancient Rome, because people are assets, and that's when you know how to treat those people the right way, in my opinion, that's when you have the biggest asset of all. And I think it's in everything in life. But anyway, I'm just rambling now. Alex, I want to share this with the comment from the viewer and donation from Texas Grown. Alex and Tom, so I think this is Tom Luongo, who also been my guest. I'm very, very grateful for that. Have been on point. Alex, I might have a man crush. Anya, great job to both of you. Beautiful. Thank you so much. I just want everyone to get my name right, please. It's with like you see on the screen right here. That's me. Okay. Alex, anything else you want to add before we end this live stream? I'm very grateful that you were able to connect, especially after.
I think it's right to like people, because people is who write symphonies and poems and paint paintings and sculptures and build museums and cathedrals and make movies and comedy and all these wonderful things.
Good food, good food.
Cook good food, grow good food. All of these wonderful things that we are capable of doing, they're not being done by Klaus Schwabs and Bill Gateses of this world. They're being done by ordinary people everywhere. And all of that adds up to making life worth living, spending time with good people, eating good food, listening to good music, reading good books, admiring beautiful architecture, walking in beautifully manicured parks, and on and on and on and on. Where does it come from? It didn't materialize spontaneously. It was built by people, and it was built by certain kind of people, not by bankers, not by corporate CEOs. It was done by ordinary people. So it's right to like ordinary people because they create things that we all like. We are them after all. And then if you experience them when they're little, before they've become competent, it's the most delightful creatures possible, isn't it? We all love children. And that's us. They're just us, less competent, less well-formed, less grown, less capable, but maybe purer, less, how do you call it? Less blemished by life.
It's the free expression of the creativity and ability of the human to express God in the form that never been expressed before. And it will always surprise you. Like you think you've seen it all, but then someone shows up and he delivers a form of art or architecture or music or whatever it is in such a way that, I think it all comes down to not losing our humanity. Because this is part of our humanity.
Yes, absolutely.
Alex KRAINER, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you for the invite, Anya. Greetings to everyone out there, and until the next time.
Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit the like for my guest at least. Thank you. And subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to follow Alex and support his work, make sure to check his Substack website and his X account. All links are already below our live stream. Thank you, everyone.